Good morning, folks. My name is Jon Larsen, and I'll be your presenter today. In our opening song, Joan Osborne, I have a hard time with that, don't I, Ellie? In our opening song by Joan Osborne asks, if God had a name, what would it be? Now, as good Unitarian Universalists, I'm not going to argue the merit of if there is a God. That's for you to decide. We each have our own beliefs on the subject as we search for truth and meaning to our existence. But we all know and accept that there are numerous ways to name God. Spirit of life, Great Spirit, Allah, not at all, or in my belief, the collective unconsciousness. Noted psychologist Carl Jung defined collective unconsciousness as the deepest unconscious mind that is inherited, not formed from personal experience. He believed that similarities in world religion pointed to religion as a manifestation of the collective unconscious of human beings. And so, spirituality is connected to the human unconscious inherited by all. He also defined God as the central archetype of the collective unconscious. God is not a literal deity, but rather a symbol of the human transcendent experience. Jung said, God is a mystery, and everything we say about him is symbolic. Maybe Joan is referring to God in the literal sense, but I think she's singing about something larger. According to the song's writer, 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐸𝐿𝐴, one of us is about recognizing something that fundamentally changes your worldview. It could be anything from aliens to ageism. If you saw it and could recognize it, would that mean you had to believe in it? God, in this case, is a metaphor for a larger existential experience. FYI, folks, trust me, this is not a God sermon. Many years ago, when Kelly and I lived in Oahu, I was a postal employee. The office was made up of a diverse population. There were 2 white people, me and 1 female, a whole bunch of Asian Americans, Hawaiians, Filipinos, and Samoans. I was in the minority as the only privileged white male, let alone the only disabled vet. I worked in the back. I sorted mail and loaded the mail trucks alongside this culturally diverse population. I never missed a deadline. I got along with everybody, and I felt I did a good job. Then one day I got transferred to a satellite office. It was small, quiet, and easy. I was one of 3 people. I knew my job and I did it well. I was trained in using the register and determining best postage values. I knew back of the house, having worked at the main branch. I rarely asked questions because I knew what to do and when to get it done. After a few months there, things started getting really stressful. The lead clerk started treating me differently, ignoring me, or using sharp tones when he did acknowledge me. The other clerk felt the tension, so one day I asked the lead what was wrong. Why was he treating me in such a manner? He didn't really have an answer, so the day continued, tension in the air. Little did I know that, like a stranger on the bus, a negative side of God was coming, and I was the target. I left for break that day, and the lead clerk came after me. He confronted me on his problem with me, and all I can remember him saying, either you're stupid or your brain don't work. I saw red and wanted to break his nose. He's lucky I didn't. I wanted to clock out for the rest of the day. I should have gone straight to the postmaster and reported him, but it was a Saturday, and I didn't think he'd be in the office. So instead, I went back in and finished my break and went back to work, seething with anger. I didn't understand why he felt that way about me, why he treated me differently than others who came for training. As a white male, I had never had an experience like that. Was it because I was white or maybe a vet? Veterans are often discriminated on Oahu. Or was it because he felt I didn't know what I was doing and not working fast enough? I had no clue as to what his problem was with me, and he refused to openly discuss it. I was made to feel less than him and others for some reason I couldn't comprehend. After that confrontation, anything I did right in his eyes was met with a condescending, "Good boy," like I was a dog. A few weeks later, I got let go of that job. So, if God had a face, what would it look like? Joan asks, and would that mean you'd have to believe in all things related to it? I didn't know it at the time, but God, the symbol, did have a name, a face, and in this case, it wasn't pretty. Only years after my postal experience could I see the name for what it truly was. There's strength in a name. By knowing the name, we can begin to see its true self. Its face when we stand face to face with it. In my story, I saw the face but couldn't put a name on it at the time. I can now look back and see what happened to me at the post office for what it was. A case of discrimination. Was it racism? Or was this ableism? Whatever it was, I know I was made to feel less than others, and that was a new experience for me. While racism does run rampant on Oahu, I believe this was a case of ableism. Ableism is a form of discrimination against the disabled, a preference to able-bodied persons. Because the lead clerk felt I was incompetent, he treated me as if I were disabled, or stupid in his words. No matter how hard I worked, it was too late. In his mind, he had labeled me, and there was nothing I could do about it. Now, as a privileged white person, that was one existential experience I never dreamed I'd have. But it got me thinking, what about the other negative faces and names that the symbol of God from Joan's song could be? Sexism, ageism, classicism, or nationalism, to name a few. A whole list of isms came to mind. We can know the names, but can you recognize the face if you were faced with him in all his glory? Or is he a slob like one of us that we either acknowledge or pretend doesn't exist? We may see the effects on others from these names, but we may never know the face of discrimination until we experience it firsthand. As a middle-aged, middle-class white male with a disability that can't easily be seen, I may never see or recognize the faces of many of these isms, although I know the names. Dr. Hank Davis, author of Caveman Logic, suggests that the first ism is over 100,000 years old and was tribalism. He says the caveman mentality was an us or them concept establishing a need to identify differences in order to protect resources and ensure survival. With 100,000 years of us and them mentality hardwired into us, Carl Jung would suggest that isms are part of our collective unconscious, a deeply seated and inherited survival mechanism. The ism list has grown considerably since caveman days. What may have started as a protective mechanism has long since evolved into one of derision and oppression. One problem with isms is that we may internalize them, then enact them, or be the target without ever knowing it. Leonardo Paisano of Michigan State University suggests that we may hold a value or belief about an ism and act on them without realizing that we are doing so. He uses poor people are poor due to bad choices. Although he may never voice that belief, he may interact with people of lower socioeconomic status and unknowingly apply that value. When we see the face, Joan asks, what would you do? What would you ask if you had just one question? We need to ask, why do I believe that? Or, why did I do that? And make an effort to truthfully answer that question. It is far easier not to acknowledge it and walk away. We walk away from what we know to be true rather than face it. It's safer that way. Generalizations as such are what get us into trouble. On another level, we may try to shame a person into changing their status without even realizing we're doing that. On this interpersonal level, our actions are the oppressor. I'm sure many of you have heard the argument against poverty, stating that they should be more fiscally responsible and not buy that $1,200 iPhone or that $40,000 car. Without understanding generational poverty, you will never understand those choices. The language and actions we share, although meaning to be harmless and helpful, only serve to perpetuate discrimination and oppression. Have you ever been put in an uncomfortable situation that left you squirming a little? Then you've experienced another form of interpersonalism. Interpersonal oppression can look just like that. It's an off-color joke. It's ignoring a person. It's stereotyping or even talking over another person. Interpersonalisms are done to others as a way to put them in their place, to dominate or to keep one person feeling superior to others. It's pretty much anything that is said or done that makes one feel uncomfortable. If you recognize the name, would you call it to his face if you were faced with him? As Unitarian Universalists, we are most familiar with institutionalized isms. Our social justice actions are about recognizing the names and faces of God and combating policies and generalizations that are part of the social fabric. As we face now, xenophobia is revealed as racism and runs rampant in our current policies. We see the real-time actions caused by devaluing brown people with institutionalized generalization that all Hispanics are gang members. Unlike the internalized ism, we can see the effects of recognizing the faces of what is deemed to be socially and culturally acceptable, whether we truly accept it or not. Whenever we see an institutionalized ism, is it not our duty and responsibility to stand against it? Or do you turn a blind eye, saying that it's somebody else's problem? Did you notice all the variety of people representing God in the video? Each one is unique and the same. Each ism is unique and the same as well. As Dr. Davis from Caveman Logic says about isms, in for a penny, in for a pound. You can't pick which ism you accept. It's an all or nothing deal. Now, personally, I'm not sure I believe that a racist is a sexist, is a nationalist, etc. He suggests you're either willing to turn control of your mind over to the Pleistocene default settings, or you modern up and bring some wisdom to the party. And that statement I can agree with. How can we overcome the isms and evolve? It starts with using the names and recognizing its face. And we all have to be true to ourselves and acknowledge the isms in our lives. Isms serve no purpose other than to segregate and degrade one another. When we recognize the fundamental change with oneself and that encourages you to look at humanity as a whole, we can move to break the cycle of discrimination. We exist in a world of differences, and as long as we acknowledge that in the form of isms, we will always have a world of division. We spend too much time on differences and not enough on the commonalities that we all share. God is good. God is great, Joan repeats in her song. In celebrating the diversity in our world, we can begin to break the chains of oppression and recognize that which is truly great about humanity. My experience in the post office did have a fundamental shift in my being. I found myself truly looking at others, black, brown, Muslim, Jewish, gay, trans, male, female. It didn't matter anymore. Not that it ever did. In one small way, I understood what it meant to be discriminated against. I try to acknowledge everybody now with a nod, a smile, a word, or even simple eye contact. It's an easy way of saying, I see and respect you. It's a way to acknowledge and take power from the isms. It's believing in all things like Jesus and the saints and all the prophets. We all have isms in our lives. It's part of our hardwiring. How we overcome them and what we do from there is what matters most. Okay, maybe this was a little bit of a God sermon. Thank you.